You don't need to buy Adobe stock. In fact, a lot of different websites that provide AI files or PSD files, most of these designs can be replicated quite easily. Well, I'm here to tell you how you can do all of that very easily. Well, I do have a course which is entirely dedicated to learning Illustrator and Photoshop, and you can check it out over here. But in this video, I'm talking about something very specific. I saw this design over here and I felt that you don't need to pay for this particular design. You can create this very easily directly in Illustrator. So in this video, let's do that. And in the meantime, we will learn how to use 3D text as well. So let's get started. So start off with a new file. I'm calling this one poster. The color mode is going to be RGB and I make sure that this is in vertical orientation. Before we get started with the text, let's add some background elements. I've created a new layer called background, remove the stroke and make sure that this is very desaturated yellow color. Next are two lightly saturated oranges or ellipse of orange color. Now to add the halftone pattern, go to Appearance, select Fill and open up the Swatch Library menu. You should be able to see Basic Graphics Dots patterns. Arrange these as you deem fit, but make sure they're not too crowded on the screen. Here I have a nice background pattern done. Let's move forward. Now the first thing that we will do is add the text over here. We will work with the placement, so don't worry about that. Select a nice font and a large size. I love this font called the bold font and I'm making this about 80 points. The next thing is to add a white fill and a somewhat grey stroke. Open up 3D and materials from your Windows panel and let's start with the work over here. What you'd want to do is extrude. Looking at our reference, I think a depth of 300 should be good. But don't worry if you don't like this, we can always change it later. For the rotation, I will go with isometric top because I think that has been the one that is used over here. You can choose to play around with X, Y and Z axes, but it's slightly complicated and I prefer not to. So I'll just let this be in this particular style. Now I've given these spaces or new lines between text so that they are one after the other. And let's move it somewhere in the center of the screen. Maybe adding more space between lines will help us do some good. There's some fine tuning required between the font and the leading between the different lines. The easy way of setting text in a singular line or in a simple structure would be to add directly spaces in the text itself. This saves from a lot of effort when you're designing or adding very specific text pieces. Now you can see this is very close to the original design that we had started off from. Let's move on to lighting. Go back to your 3D and materials panel and open the lighting tab. Here there are multiple options: standard, diffuse, top left and right. These are presets that are already available, but we will play with our own specific requirements. I'll make sure that the color is white, and that is what we want the text to look like. Some bits of tweaking to intensity and rotation of the light gives us a very close angle of what we were going for. A reduction in the intensity of the ambient light also helps us in reducing the whiteness on the shadows or the extrusion. Now we are very close to exactly what the Adobe stock design has. If you still want to make more changes, go ahead and do that with the text that you want. Let's also make the ellipses slightly more saturated because it brings more vibrancy to the design. And there we have the design exactly that is there in the Adobe stock design. Of course, small changes here and there can still be done, but did you just learn something that about 3D text that can be done by yourself and you don't have to rely on a stock website like this? Well, wasn't that easy? Well, this is what I was talking about, right? There are a lot of different websites that you can buy or purchase these stock projects from, but they're really not that difficult. If you start to learn Illustrator and you learn these design tools, you'll be able to replicate them in no time. Well, I hope you liked this video. Make sure to subscribe this as well because I'm going to be creating a lot more content on how to create similar designs in the future. I will see you in the next one.